One major problem that Christian apologists have to contend with is the fact that the New Testament tells us that Jesus is the son of David, yet it also tells us that Jesus was born of a virgin. According to the Hebrew Bible, the Messiah will descend from David, and genealogy is traced through the father. Jesus had no biological father according to the New Testament, so what makes him from the line of David? And so the answer that's usually given is that Jesus is descended from David through his mother Mary. For proof, they will cite the example of the daughters of Zelophehad who inherited property from their father, which shows that lineage could also go through the female line. However, that is specifically about property inheritance and not lineage. They'll also cite 1 Chronicles chapter 2, which says that Sheshan had no sons, and therefore his lineage went down through his daughter. However, the problem with all this is that the New Testament doesn't tell us that Jesus is from David through Mary. In both the Gospel of Matthew and the Gospel of Luke, it tells us that Joseph was from the line of David. It doesn't tell us anything about Mary being from the line of David. Many Christians will say that the Gospel of Luke, although it doesn't tell us specifically, is actually recording the genealogy of Mary. Of course, this is highly unlikely because the author of Luke tells us twice that Joseph was from the line of David. He doesn't tell us anything about Mary's genealogy other than the fact that she was related to Zechariah and Elizabeth, who were from the priestly line of Aaron. So it would be very odd for him to tell us the genealogy of Mary if he tells us that it was Joseph who was from the line of David and not Mary. But one Christian apologist, Courtney Smith of Biblical Apologetics, claims to know that Matthew's genealogy is that of Mary's.
So, the promise of kingship goes to Solomon. Mary was from Solomon. In Matthew 1, we find that. And if you look at the Peshitta, and I think it's picking up on something in the Greek there, you see very clearly that it distinguishes that in verse 16, the Joseph there mentioned could have been either a kinsman redeemer or her father, a headship that is biologically related to her.
Now, this is false on so many levels. Firstly, the Greek word used in verse 16 is andra, which in every instance that it's used either means man or husband. It never means father, kinship, or redeemer. The Greek word used in verse 19, anir, is related to the word andra and likewise means either man or husband. The Greek word for father is patros, which isn't used by Matthew. So Courtney's claim that the Peshitta is picking up a difference between verse 16 and verse 19 and that verse 16 is not about Mary's husband shows that the Peshitta either mistranslated the Greek New Testament or that Courtney is misreading the Peshitta. So let's have a look at what the Peshitta can tell us. The Syriac word that the Peshitta uses in verse 16 is gavra. The word gavra is used by the Peshitta to describe husband in Matthew 19:10 and 1 Corinthians chapter 7 and many other places. So the word gavra, like its Greek counterpart andra, either means man or husband, does not mean father. The Syriac word for her father is avua, which is not used by the Peshitta. So Courtney is mistranslating the Peshitta, which, if she were right, would be mistranslating the Greek New Testament. And just to show contextual evidence, preceding all the names in Matthew's genealogy, it says the Greek word ienesen, which means begot. But it does not say that between Joseph and Mary, because according to Matthew, Joseph is not Mary's father who begot her. And likewise in the Peshitta, it says the word olid, which means begot, but not by Mary. So Joseph is the husband and not the father of Mary, and Jesus, who is not biologically related to Joseph, is not from the line of David, and so therefore cannot be the Jewish Messiah.